And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. I'm Chad Holmes, my normal winter co-host, Jeff Gress. Busy in the first hour. Yeah, he has a regular job. He is a teacher at Newman, and they have their teacher-parent conferences tonight, and Jeff will be in around 7 o'clock this evening. But that just means we can talk more hockey. Every time I bring up hockey to Jeff Gress, he gets that look in his eyes, like I'm throwing him under the bus, like going to a foreign country without knowing the language. So get a chance to talk plenty of hockey with the head coach of the Wausau West Warriors, B.J. Brandt. Always nice when I can call you up when Jeff can't come in for the first hour and have you come by and sit in.
I certainly love an hour of hockey, Chad. Thanks for having me.
And coming up at 7 o'clock, our student-athlete guest for this week, Jake Furr. He is the goaltender for the East Merrill United Blue Jacks, and I hope somebody rolls him in because he was very busy last night facing 77 shots against Stevens Point, making 71 saves. So we'll talk to Jake Furr coming up at 7 o'clock. But, BJ, hockey season underway. I guess we'll start off talking about your team to begin with because your team last night defeated Marshfield 7-2 in the Wisconsin Valley Conference second game. I was thinking when I saw the numbers for that game that before the game Saturday against University School, I asked you about your special teams and work in progress, but the work apparently is working out because you had 5 power play goals last night.
Yeah, I think special teams is it's up and down right now for us. I think, last night to get 5 power play goals, 3 of those came on a major penalty. When a team takes a major penalty against you, you want to be able to make them pay more than the one traditional that you may get during the 2-minute penalty. So we were able to do that, and that opened the game up a little bit in the third period. So nice to see our guys get a nice 7-2 win at Marshfield. It was probably the warmest I have ever been inside the Marshfield rink because it was warm outside. So I enjoyed playing in Marshfield when it was warm.
Man, last year when I went there for that game, by the end, I was shaken. I mean, it was so cold. It was so cold in that building. I remember some other places where it's cold, but I don't know if it's ever any colder than it was last year in Marshfield.
So the difference is, I was talking to Mike Hankey there, they got an electric Zamboni, so they don't have to open the vents anymore to let all the cold air in. So in theory, it should be warmer in Marshfield. They got a nice new electric Zamboni. It looked great last night.
Might have to return next year. So your team 3-3 overall, 2-0 in the WVC. The first 2 games in Eau Claire were pretty rough. I mean, I think we're finding out that first game against Notre Dame Academy, nobody's really been able to play with them up to this point. You had a second game against the host school, Eau Claire Memorial, where I know you're wishing you may have had that one back. But since then, 3 wins in the last 4. Playing again, some good competition last weekend in your home rink. How do you feel 6 games into the season?
Well, I think about the first weekend was an eye-opener for some of our young guys. I think that was us getting our greenhorns, so to speak, a little bit of experience, getting their sea legs, and figuring out what varsity hockey and what that pace looks like. And I've been really happy with the way we've played since then. Now, we've had moments in there where they're just lapses in judgment that ultimately are leading to goals against. And right now, if you look at the stats, we're, I think, -5 in the second period right now. So that means that teams are outscoring us in the second period 2-1 almost. And you just look at, okay, that's a tough period for young guys to manage the puck and think about ways they want to play the game and be simple, and it's just going to take time. And last night, I think we scored 3 in the second period. They didn't score any, and that kind of separated the game a little bit for us.
Mason DeBrew. You had a couple of goals in one of the games last week. It all runs together when there's so many of them. And then last night, he had a hat trick. Big surprise at this point?
Well, I mean, for a guy who transitioned from forward, he had played forward last year. He took a couple years off, stepped away from the game a little bit, and came back to us at the beginning of last season, and we're pumped to have him. I mean, he's a guy who's shown up in the locker room, and he seems to be a really good teammate. Seems to be somebody that is willing to do what is needed for the team, for a guy to step in from forward to now go, hey, coach, I'll play D, knowing that we had some inexperience back there and we lost somebody to injury, and Zach DeBile, we don't have him. Axel Mahler's fighting a soccer injury still. So for him to come in and step in the way that he has been a huge surprise to us and certainly welcomed.
Another kid that's been consistent in scoring so far this season is Grant Homestead. Had a couple last night. He scored the only goal against Notre Dame. He had the game winner against Waukesha. It looks like he's taken his game up a notch, hasn't it?
He has. I mean, he's been a fun 4-year kid to watch him develop over these 4 years, and as somebody that has kind of changed his role each year and what that looks like for him to take the leadership role and be a captain for us. I think it's been really interesting to watch his game change. He's a guy that plays a lot of hockey. He's on the ice a lot. He loves the game, and it's really fun to watch him. He can shoot the puck really hard. We're learning, he's learning how to shoot a little bit quicker, how to shoot through screens a little bit, and certainly he's been a guy that we've had to count on. I mean, if you go back all the way to that first game, the 8-1 against Notre Dame Academy, the shot that he had that beat the goaltender was an outstanding shot. I mean, it was a shot just inside the blue line and beat him far side high, and those are shots that you're like, oh, okay, he can really rip it. And he's certainly somebody on the power play that we're looking at getting the puck to. And he's, last night it was funny. We're on the bench and we're trying to find ways to score in the second period, and late in the first. And I just said to the guys, hey, we want to get to this area of the rink, and not more than 5 seconds later, Grant got to that area of the rink on his shift and scored, and that's the type of leadership we need, and he's been there so far for us.
Another line that has a couple of guys who can light the lamp. Thomas Garham, who had a hat trick against Waukesha last week, and then Ray Reinick, who scored a couple of goals against the University School. Both very talented offensive players. In Ray's case, whether he's wearing skates or not, he's a rather talented offensive player.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Thomas. Thomas is kind of the same thing. He's been playing varsity hockey for 4 years, and he plays a lot of hockey throughout the year. And for him to step in as a leader this year has been fun to see. He's changed a little bit in his personality and delivery of how he is in a locker room, and guys are starting to take to that. I think he's always been a producer on the ice. He's somebody who takes the puck from end to end, and he likes to have the puck on his stick, and he's figuring out how to use his teammates. We've switched up there. Those two have been together quite a bit, and we've changed up their wing a little bit at times. But yeah, Ray's fun to watch, because there's times in a game when that D is beat already. That D doesn't know it yet, but Ray's going to skate right by him, and he's learned what his skills are. I mean, he comes down that left side, he'll rip a shot, get to the rebound. He's a great F1. He loves being there, and that's why Thomas and him work so well together. Ray can hunt like crazy, and Thomas can find the soft spots, and they do a really good job of working together. They're working with Hendrik Stammer right now and trying to get those young legs up to varsity speed and get him he's a high-end guy, and trying to get him where he's up to their level a little bit, where the game slows down for him. It's a little bit fast, but those groups, those two guys are certainly leaders, and we're working with our young guys to get them up to speed and figuring out varsity hockey.
Last year I thought of Ray Reinick as a hockey guy who played football. Now this fall he turned into a football guy who played hockey. Is he going to turn back into a hockey guy who plays football?
Well, I tell you, it's fun because Ray is somebody who's a multi-sport athlete, at times 3-sport athlete, and that's a tough balance for kids right now. I mean, just in general, to be a 3-sport athlete is not what it was 20 years ago.
When you were doing it.
Yes. I mean, like every season ended when the season ended. Well, now it's not like that. I mean, I think for Ray, football, certainly the amount of success he had on the football field, he earned it all in the off season, and had a great football season, and they had a great team football season. Typically with Ray, we expect he's going to come in, he's going to be a little banged up. We'll try to get him a couple of weeks to get back on the ice. But this year, he hit the ice skating really fast, and he had his hands were there, so it was fun to see him transition as now he gets older and becomes more of a leader for us.
You got some good freshmen. I've noticed very early. I mean, this early in the season to see freshmen make an impact, and you've got some kids that you've put in positions to succeed, and I think they're taking advantage of the opportunities, aren't they?
Yeah, you look at the wings we have right now, Chase Crass, Cooper DePoit, and Hendricks Damrell. Those guys have stepped right in. They're competing for that ice time to try to keep their spots, because there's some guys that are looking to get those spots, but they've done a nice job of transitioning to what varsity hockey is. And at times, you come in from Bantam hockey, or you come in from Tier 1 hockey, and you come in from, they all play in the fall. So they come in from that season, and it's just a little bit different when you're playing with older guys. You're playing with seniors that are grown men, versus playing against your birth year when you play in the fall. So instead of playing against 08s and 07s, they're playing against 05s, some 04s. So these guys are now 2 and 3 years older than them. They've had weight room time. So to get them up to speed with some of that, it just takes time and saturation. And you look at, a guy like Cade Damro, and you look at Aiden Abuzahab. Those are guys that are providing great depth on our special teams and doing great jobs on those. I mean, it's been fun as a coach to tinker with the lineup and kind of see who's playing well, and obviously you got a few other guys in there that are doing some really good things too.
We're talking to BJ Brandt, the head hockey coach of Wausau West High School, here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. When you say the old guys are the 05s and the 04s, it really makes me feel like an old guy, I tell you. It's insane thinking about that. But going into the season, I think you had the feeling that you had some kids who could light the lamp, that you're going to have some kids that had the offensive abilities. The questions were on the back end, the blue line. And to add to maybe some questions where, in terms of experience and depth, for the most part, at the defense position, you've had some injuries you have to overcome early in the season. And for the most part, it looks like those guys have really stepped in nicely in terms of improving as the season has developed. Because, boy, I mean, when you take those two factors, that it was a question mark to begin with, and then you have a couple of injuries as well. Boy, it could have really had the roof cave in quickly, but it has not.
No, it hasn't. I mean, they're led back there by Captain Ryan Ellis. I mean, he's the guy with the most experience back there, and obviously Mason has stepped into that role really well. We've rotated a lot of guys in. Grant Winsenson Jr. that didn't have a lot of varsity experience, if any, for him to step in and do the things that he's been able to do and improve every game. I mean, yeah, he's going to make mistakes. I think that comes with the territory at that point. Drake Kaharski, he unfortunately got injured in the U School game, and now we've lost him for a little bit here. But Ethan Rohde is another guy that two sophomores, you don't expect a lot of sophomores to be able to jump in the lineup. Well, they've had to jump into the lineup because senior Zach DeBile is out and Axel Mahler is out. Both seniors, that guys that we would thought we'd be able to count on, but just due to injuries, they can't play. And it's been nice to see those guys and develop depth, and we got a trio of freshmen that want to be able to be in that lineup too, and to get them to get the practice time and just try to get them up. And when you go from JV to varsity or Bantam to varsity hockey, the speed is overwhelming. Okay, so as a coach, you're trying to simplify the game, allow them to do simple things that are effective. Because as you said, I think our strength is our forwards. Well, guys, as defensive core, our job is to get the puck to the forwards and then play defense. And it took us a couple games and a lot of film from the opening weekend over in Eau Claire to learn some of those things. But I think we're getting better as a group. As a coach, sometimes you got to be patient because it's hard. You only get 24 games, but at the same time, you want to make sure that, okay, there's a process here, and we're going to make mistakes. As long as we're making less than we did the game before, and we're not making the same ones over and over, that's progress, and we're going to be really good when we want to be in February.
And then finally, the goaltending position. You haven't had too many worries about goaltending in recent years. Obviously, Adam Prokop was just stellar between the pipes for your team the last 4 years, and even before that, you've had really good goaltending at Wausau West for quite a long time. You got a couple of kids who are battling right now for time between the pipes. What's your take on your goaltending?
Well, it starts with senior Colin Murtis. I mean, he's the guy who sat behind Adam for 3 years and got a few opportunities during that time, but Adam was a guy that didn't want to give the net away.
We did not.
Ever.
No.
So, and
unless he was playing on the skates.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, the only time he wanted to give it away is when he wanted to skate out. But Colin obviously has had some opportunities here early on. Parks Gunther, a junior, has had some opportunities here. Those two guys are going to battle it out. But then you've got guys pushing them, junior Matt Leopold, sophomore Brady McFadden, two guys that are pushing them every day in practice because they want that spot. And they're all capable kids. And I think competition makes people better. And that's where we're at with the goaltending right now. Like they all want the net. They all want to be in the net. And there's only one. It's not like defense or forward where you're rotating 2 or 3 sets or 3 lines. There's one net, one goalie. And it's been fun to watch them compete because it's made all of them collectively as a group better. We're battling some sickness on that front right now, but I think that's everybody. That's the nature of where everybody is with the season. So, but those 4 guys are going to battle for the job, and you know, as we've chatted over these years here, that I pick one guy for the playoffs, and it kind of rolls from there, and making sure that we've had a 24-game season where they've been able to earn that spot, and trust of their coaches and trust of their teammates is really important.
How much does practice matter in terms of who ends up, whether it's goaltender, whether it's forwards, whether it's defensemen, for people that wonder, how does how do you decide on who's going to be out there during the big moments? How much of it is what you see during the game, but how much does practice, and what do you look for in a practice? That's what I think some people would want to understand. What does a kid do at practice that allows them to be on the ice?
Well, I think it all goes into play to decide who's playing in the tough moments. But I think a lot of it starts with, at the beginning of the year, you're relying on your veterans and the guys that have been around and the guys that have been in situations, or at least been around the situations, to put them in there and see how they can succeed. You look at practice is super important for us. Like, being a fierce competitor in practice, we talk about competing with each other and not competing against each other. So yeah, you and I, Chad, we're fighting for that same top line center role, but I'm going to compete with you so that you get better and you make me better. But I'm not going to compete against you. There's a difference there, and we talk about that a lot. And we want to make sure that our guys are super competitive, because that translates to the game. We want practice to be tough to the point where the game is easier than practice. So there's a lot of competitive drills. There's a lot of times where we're keeping score, whether it's forwards versus defense or 3-on-3 drill. We split up in colors because we want to make sure that we're competitive. And I think that's the biggest thing. And you see right away the kids that want to be competitive, and that's a big part of who we want to be.
Got to take a quick break, but we'll come back. I want to talk about your conference, talk about the state of Wisconsin and hockey, what's going on around the state, and of course talk about the Marathon Cup as well, and talk about the other hats you're wearing right now, because you're knee deep in a lot of areas in hockey generally. So we'll talk more with BJ Brandt coming up as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. A little bit of a different rotation of what we're talking about tonight, as Jeff Gress won't be with us until the second hour. We'll talk about high school girls and boys basketball later on in the program, but a lot to talk about in terms of high school hockey. And we'll have the East Middle United goaltender Jake Fear coming up at 7 o'clock. And right now we are still in studio with the head hockey coach of Wausau West, BJ Brandt. And Coach, looking at the Wisconsin Valley Conference, I just printed out the standings, getting ready for tomorrow's broadcast, a Valley game in addition to the Marathon Cup. But it didn't take long for Stevens Point and Wausau West to work their way up to the top, the only undefeateds left in the conference, both 2-0. Got Wisconsin Rapids, who, boy, they gave you a scare in the conference opener. They're 1-1 after beating Everest last night, very impressively, 7-2. Then you got Everest, 0-1 after their loss to Wisconsin Rapids. Merrill East is 0-1 after falling 6-0 to Stevens Point. And Marshfield, they got the short end of the stick in the schedule. They had to face Spash on the road last week, fell 8-0, and then fell to your team 7-2. But looking at the conference, let's start off at Stevens Point, because going into the season, I think the feeling was, with what they have back in terms of their offensive firepower, a team that's going to be very dangerous, and a team that for everybody else, the team you're going to have to knock off in the conference. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at what they got back at goaltending. You look at the forwards that they have back, and then the young guys that they're able to bring in. Their freshman young guys are skilled to step in the line. A bunch of sophomores, so they've got the talent. I think on the back end, Mason Keller for them has been a leader for them for 3 years at the varsity level, and they've got a lot of experience that comes back, and I think that's the difference right now, especially early on when others don't have that experience. They can rely on that experience, but certainly they're a team that you circle on the calendar every time you get an opportunity to play them, because we split regular season last year, and then I think the last 2 years we've lost them in the playoffs. So for us, it's 35 minutes down the road. We like going to Willett. We like having them here. It's a fun matchup.
Next Thursday at Marathon Park, the first time around in 2022-2023. Wisconsin Rapids, boy, they've been impressive. You looked at their first game against Reedsburg, Wisconsin Dells. You say, they lost 4-1. There are going to be some question marks for Wisconsin Rapids. They came into Marathon Park. You were able to find a way in overtime, 5-4. Came from behind, and then last night to beat Everest 7-2. Everest again, they beat Waukesha on Saturday, but Wisconsin Rapids really took it to the Evergreens at Southwood County. Their number one line is more than a handful, isn't it?
Well, they were a handful for us, especially when we were on the power play. I mean, I texted Pat McDonald, their head coach, today jokingly, because I think they had 2 shorthanded goals in the game last night.
I think you're right.
So I said to him, you guys, I think, lead the nation in shorthanded goals. And must have been a wildly attended game. I saw they had 37,900 on the attendance for that game. But they're super dynamic, whether they're shorthanded on the power play 5-on-5. Those, you look at Tokarski, Gauze, and Vilbaum, they're playing together, and you look at where their points are. Those are the guys they're going to have to rely on, and they're dynamic. Every time they come up the ice, the puck can go in the back of the net.
Marshfield, you saw last night, generally their goaltending is very solid. Last night, was it strictly that they were shorthanded so much and you were able to take advantage? Was the big difference in that game, or what did you see? Is there a team that has the capability of contending in this league?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, 5-on-5 was a 2-1 game. You look at the special teams, I think, were the difference there. Joey Cashmere, Tyler Reisman, those are 2 guys. Noah Peterson, those 3 are going to be the ones they were the guys that created a lot of offense for them last night. I think Reisman had one of the goals. Cashmere might have had an assist or one of the goals. Every time Noah Peterson came up the ice, you kind of hold your breath, because he's a big kid that can shoot the puck really hard. He plays the game heavy, meaning like you're not gonna go by him without him making some body contact. He's a big kid, so they're going to rely heavily on those guys, and obviously you got Cole Halverson, their senior goaltender, and I think senior goaltenders start to recognize how short that season is and start playing really, really well, especially after Christmas time.
And the other 2 teams in the conference you'll be seeing in the next few days. So tomorrow night you got East Merrill United in the semifinal of the Marathon Cup tournament, and then you'll get DC Everest either on Saturday in the second round or on Tuesday. Whoever you don't play between Everest and Mosinee on Saturday, you play on Tuesday. Let's start with Everest. You talk about a big kid, a young kid. Thomas Passano is somebody that looks like has got the capability of being a top performer for DC Everest, but they have to have some kids grow with him, don't they?
Well, I think I talked to Dan last week. I think they have 8 freshmen in their lineup.
Yep.
So you look at, they had a huge senior class a year ago. Just turning over that experience. So you want to make. I'm sure he's going through the similar process that we are with our young guys. They're playing Bantam hockey a year ago. You've got to get them up to speed and put them in situations where they can be successful. And there's going to be times that the physically mature kids are going to win, irregardless of skill. Mm-hmm. So that young freshman going up a senior, the freshman might be more skilled, but the senior's probably going to win the battle just because of weight room and skill and just a little bit of experience, And I think they'll go through a little bit of some growing pains a little bit. But the way they're playing right now, I watched them play against Waukesha. They were rolling some lines there. They had good special teams. I thought. They played really well in that game, and they've had played two different goaltenders that I've seen. I think Gavin Smith played last night, but then Griffin Bonnell was the one who played against Waukesha, and I thought he played really well.
And they got a little experience on the blue line that should help them, right?
Yeah, I think they're old on the blue line. I think they have 3 senior defensemen. I think they're led by, is it?
Yeah, Cole Ress is a big kid. He's a 4-year player.
Yeah, he's a guy that's played for him. Big, tall, long defenseman that has a ton of varsity experience. So they'll be tough to play against, especially at their rink.
And tomorrow, at this time tomorrow, you'll be out there. You'll be on the bench. I'll be up in the classroom up high at Green Heck. You take on East Merrill United. It's a team that has a lot of kids back. 12 of their top 14 scorers are back. You obviously got a kid who can stop the puck if you give him a chance. You can't just throw anything at him. You're going to have to make sure they're quality shots. What are you looking at tomorrow against EMU?
Well, I think for us, it's how we're going to play in the offensive zone. I think Jake Ferrer has been a guy that has a lot of experience at the varsity level, a lot of shots over his career, and we want to make sure that we get traffic in front of him. I mean, he's the pulse of their team, and we want to make sure that we get traffic in front of him. We want to make a move, those type of things. But they've scored a lot of goals this year. I mean, they scored 12 in their first game. They were able to get 6 again against Shawinigan, and for Zach Poggle and I think Caden Grusnick and Nick Bodner are guys that we've had the game plan for, and I think nothing's changed there. We got to make sure we game plan for them because those guys get loose and they can cause trouble for you.
Let's talk about the tournament itself, the Marathon Cup, which is always such a fun event. It's obviously fun for you in Wausau West because you've won it so often. But there is something. I mean, to be honest with you, it's amazing that your program's record, because I don't care how good you are. There's been some good teams. Everest has had a state team just a few years back. Mosinee has had teams at either the sectional final or state team. East has some good teams back a little bit further back right now. But the way that West finds a way, and even last year it was a tough game against Mosinee. Had to win it in the last seconds. It was a tough game against Everest. I think it was 2-0 in the championship round. But yet you keep finding ways. Knock on wood here for you guys, but I mean, it's amazing the record that Wausau West has had at the Marathon Cup.
Well, I love the Marathon Cup because it gets the whole community together, and I think the basis for that, going back to the Salvation Army piece and the fundraising side of it to help the Salvation Army, and that stays right in our community, whether it's Mosinee, Schofield, Weston, Rothschild, Wausau, like all of that part of it is a huge part of what the Marathon Cup has become. For me, I think about it as we're getting at least 2 conference games out of this. So there's some really important parts of this, that the cup is the result, but there's a couple conference games in there you got to make sure that you're prepared for, because high school kids get emotional, and when there's a trophy on the line, sometimes that emotion you can ride in either direction with it. So, but I love getting the community together at Green Neck Fieldhouse and packing that place, because there's a lot of people that will come back to watch just the Marathon Cup because they get to see all 4 local teams play together and play against each other, and it's just it's a great community event. For our guys, we talk about, certainly it's a goal every year. You want to win the Marathon Cup because it gives you kind of a place where you're at in December, early December here, where you are locally. It helps you in the conference. There's just some other things that go along with it that you want to make sure you play well, and it's going to be a pressure moment. Like, there's going to be 1,000 fans, 1,500 fans, maybe more than some sectional finals, some playoff games where there's, like, as a coach, there's a ton of meeting, but for some of these guys, it's the first time playing with a little bit of pressure, and that's fun to watch as a high school athlete. It's a high school coach watching high school athletes with pressure on them and how they respond to it.
And it always seems like your opponents do to lift their game for this tournament. I mean, you saw it last year with Mosinee. You saw it with DC Everest in the championship round. You're going to see it, I'm sure, with East Merrill United. I don't recall too many of the games or the years where it was a cakewalk. It's always exceptionally hard hockey, and it's good experience for your guys as well to be put in a position where you're playing in front of a huge crowd with some pressure being put on, with something on the line as well. This is something that you can build on later in the season, isn't it?
Well, for sure. You can draw back to it later on. it's fun because I think everybody elevates their play because all these kids know each other. They grew up playing youth hockey against each other, whether at Everest, Moseley, or Wausau, and some of them were teammates. In terms of the East Merrill and the Wausau West kids, they were teammates at the youth level. So now you're playing against each other, and the whole community's there, and it's just a really exciting event for the hockey community, for the impact that it can have on the community with the Salvation Army. For our guys, I love watching them play in it because there's something at the end. Anytime there's a trophy, it means something, and I really, it's fun to watch these guys go through that process.
Again, we're talking to B.J. Brandt, the Wausau West head coach. Warriors take on East Merrill United in the semifinals of the Marathon Cup tomorrow. We'll be on the air at 5:10 for the pregame, 5:30 for the opening face-off right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa. Let's talk about the state of hockey. I know you keep a closer eye on the Division I because obviously that's what you have to look at when the playoffs get underway. You saw a team in Notre Dame Academy that I think a lot of folks are looking at as the number one team in the state. No rankings quite yet. And I heard you told me after you saw them that this could be as talented, as good a team as you've seen in a number of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think up and down their lineup, they're just deep. You look at their scoring, everybody scored, not just, 6 players, not just 8 players. They've got a lot of points in production from everybody. I think for them, it comes down to goaltending a little bit for the teams that can push them. And I think, look in their region over there, I think watching their matchup with Bayport will be interesting because just like us playing locally for the Marathon Cup, Bayport playing Notre Dame Academy, I think is become a rivalry over the years.
They don't like them. I talked to the Bayport announcer, and they do not like Notre Dame Academy one bit over at Bayport.
I mean, I understand. I understand all of it. I think they're just super deep. When I was comparing them, I think they're as good as the 2008 Eau Claire Memorial team that went undefeated,
which is a high bar.
An absolutely high bar. I think they've got a bunch of guys that are going to end up playing college hockey as long as they play, as long as they stay healthy over their time period. Whether they end up Division III or Division I, that's yet to be determined. But I think they've got some kids over there that are really skilled and to reflect back on when we played them our first game and hopefully have another opportunity to play them in January. I'll be excited to see where we're at compared to where they were at because they're always so good early. They've got structure. They've got special teams. They're really good at that stuff early, and it's going to take us some time to get up to that speed. But I like our opportunities, potentially against them at the Division I side for sure.
When you look at the state, you have this area, central Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Valley Conference. You got the Eau Claire area, the Big Rivers area. You got the eastern area with Notre Dame and Bayport, and it looks like Ashwaubenon pretty good as well. Then you got the southern areas around the state capital and then towards Milwaukee as well. Where do you think the strength is? How would you rate these areas in terms of high school hockey at this point?
Well, I think when you look at the sections, right, the sections are broken down a little bit regionally. So it's us and to the west a little bit there. Obviously, the state champs come from our section, so obviously we're the best section.
Of course.
Of course, you got Hudson in there. But I think, you look at the way the depth changes every year. I think Chippewa Falls is going to make some noise this year. Hudson obviously is
Who
there.
you play in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we play on the 22nd. Eau Claire North Memorial always in it. You look, in Section 2, there's the Bayports, there's Notre Dame Academy, Neenah, Hortonville, Menasha, Fond du Lac. Those are all teams that historically have done really well in the playoffs, and I think you're going to see some noise there. Ashwaubenon just beat Mosinee, so you look at obviously they're playing really well. You go down a little bit further, the Madison area. You've got Verona, the traditionals, Madison, Edgewood. You look at Middleton's got a pretty good squad put together this year, and you look at that group. So there's probably 3 or 4 teams that could win that section. Maybe more depending on goaltending. It always comes down to that senior goaltending moment. And then Section 4. Obviously, I think U School right now is probably the one in that region, but. Just like we are so tight, and they're so tight together down there. Muskego, I think, gave U School a decent game. So you look at, that area is one that's always tricky. You look at Waukesha. Waukesha's 0-5-1. They're the best winless team that I've seen in our state. I mean, it's crazy to me that they haven't won a game yet because they've played really, really well in moments, but just not enough to win a game. And they're a team that will make some noise as the season goes on.
And the whole thing about it is, November and early December does not always indicate that. How many times have we seen a superior team that's under 500 make a run, or anybody that gets off to a bit of a slow start? And that kind of leads to the next question: is you saw yourself against Notre Dame. You saw kind of what the target is, because at Wausau West, you always have high goals. You want to win your conference, you want to win your sectional, and you want to win the state tournament. And you want to know where you have to go. How does Wausau West, from what you saw against Notre Dame Academy, get to that level?
Well, I think experience, number one. I mean, we've got so many guys that don't have the experience. So as a coach, they're all teachable moments to teach and teach and teach and teach. And sometimes to teach with passion is different now, and to coach with passion is a little bit different. Today's athlete doesn't necessarily respond to that type of passionate coaching that maybe it has a decade or so ago. So I think for us, it's to continue to teach and to learn. I think the discipline side of it, Notre Dame is so disciplined in their structure, and they take away your time and space with multiple forwards at the puck to take the puck, and they go on offense right now. It's not I think I want to go on offense. It's we're going on offense, and the foot's on the gas, and we're going. And I think we've gotten better at that. And I think those are areas we got to improve to get to that level. Just like anything else, injuries play a factor in that. It's a long season. It's I mean, you look at it, what's today, the 7th? This is 1 month into the season from practice starting. We've now been together for 1 month. So there's ebbs and flows to that. Kids getting along, kids not getting along. You got sicknesses, you got leadership, you got all these different variables that as a coach you're trying to control to make sure that early February you're all pulling in the same direction.
You peak at the right time.
And you peak at the right time. I feel there's been a couple of years here in the recent past that we peaked in December. And you look at, we've made a run and won the Green Bay tournament a few years. And you look back, that was the when we played our best hockey. So as a coach, you're always trying to reflect back, like, okay, what do we do that year that we peaked at that moment? Because it was way too early. We want to make sure that we're peaking, 6-7 weeks after that. And it's just a game of chess and checkers and every other game in there. You put on your teacher hat, you put on your psychologist hat. Just trying to make sure that guys are playing really, really well in February.
And one of the interesting things about how you put together your schedule every year is you get an opportunity to kind of have these benchmarks. Remember, I think it was 2012 when you faced Notre Dame in the state championship game. I think it was the first time around they beat you pretty easily. I think then there was an overtime game where they still kind of outshot you by quite a bit. It was a much more better team that you were. And then by the time you played them in the state championship game, you could argue you were the better team that day, even though you lost in double overtime. The way you see it, I mean, you can actually watch your team improve in comparison to some of these teams because you do challenge yourself during the course of the season.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you learn is to put these kids in pressure-packed situations and see how they respond and to teach and learn from it. I think, we're going to play Spash next Thursday after this Marathon Cup, and I'm sure, our guys look at that, but there's a whole bunch in between there that have to allow us to get prepared for that game. You look at we go to Green Bay and play Verona, Fondy Springs, and Middleton. I mean, those are three teams. Fondy Springs division has been all over Division II as they've gone to two divisions, and Middleton and Verona are two really good Madison teams. So you try to test yourself in those moments, especially outside the conference, to put together a schedule that prepares your guys for what February feels like, and to prepare them for pressure, because you don't want them to feel that pressure. Right. You just want them to play in February.
Yeah, take another break, but we're going to come back and I'm going to ask you about your other hat with the Cyclones, and also ask about some other. I got to touch on the state tournament because doggone it, the decision was made. Let's just kind of touch on that, and also want to ask you about the Storm because I know your girls are part of the Storm youth, and you talk about goaltending. There's a program that has goaltending, so we got some things to talk about coming up with one more segment with Coach B.J. Brandt. Again, it's the big high school sports show. We'll have more coming up here on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. I'm Chad Holmes. Jeff Grass will join me in the next hour, plus our student-athlete guest, Jake Furr from the East Merrill United Blue Jacks. Jake, I was talking to Coach Brandt. I told him he faced nearly 2,600 shots in his high school career. The guy, you talk about getting the most out of your high school career, Jake Furr is one of those kids. He's been a 4-year player for the Blue Jacks. We'll talk to him about what's been going on with that team, 2-1 on the season, plus the Marathon Cup coming up. But right now we are still joined by the head hockey coach at Wausau West, B.J. Brandt, but also the man that is one of the owners of the Wausau Cyclones. And how do you do that? How do you try to balance your teaching, your coaching, your family with a bunch of hockey players, young hockey players, and now the Wausau Cyclones? Must be number one, you love hockey. That's obvious.
Yeah, I think, well, for the Cyclones, we've got a great ownership group that we all have kind of divide and conquer, and I have my role within it, which is, help out on the business side a little bit here and there. But for the most part, we've all got our lanes. We do a nice job of balancing that, and we turn a lot of it over to our business of GM Zach Serway and our head coach Nathan Oistrich. They run the business. I mean, they run the team, and we're pretty hands-off ownership group when it comes to that. So for me, I show up to a game and I just ask, where can I help? Because they've got everything covered. It's really, really enjoyable for me sometimes to go watch the next level of hockey, and to have those kids in town and be a part of our community is really, really rewarding.
Do you have a passion to win a league championship the same way that you have a passion to win a state championship?
I try to show that passion a little bit, but it's really hard because you don't have a ton of effect on the outcomes.
Right.
Where I feel like
you aren't calling the coach during the middle of the game like George Steinbrenner would call Billy Martin back in the day and say, hey, you should be doing this?
No, we have lots of conversations. I mean, I'm a good listener when it comes to that perspective, but that's why it's a development league. The players that are here in Wausau to play in the North American 3HL League, they want to develop and move on to either the North American Hockey League, which is the league above, or they want to move on to college hockey. And I think that's been really fun. We were able to get our first Division III commitment last year with, kind of in transition between years with Zach Dozian committing to Gustavus Adolphus, the goaltender. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, for us, that's what's really rewarding, is to make sure that these guys have a positive impact on our community. Our business can have a positive impact on our community, gives some entertainment value to the people of Wausau, and make sure that our money stays local. I think that's the biggest part of what we wanted to do is bring them in, bring some really fun people to the rink, have a great atmosphere for our guys to play in front of, and just enjoy the development process for them, because it's a development league for them. It's a development league for the coaches, because Colin Bailey, Wausau East guy, who was our head coach, got afforded an opportunity to move up to the Division III level. So it's a development league for those guys too, and we couldn't be happier for both those guys and the kids that are going to get to move on after this season.
Also, talk another part of, I think, your wingspan when it comes to hockey is your brother, Andy, now an assistant coach at the University of Wisconsin. I mean, of course, it's right to his heart because of what he's able to do as a student athlete at UW. What's it been, your communication with him? How has it been for him? Because he has had so much success. He's had, down in Atlanta, he went over to St. Norbs and part of a terrific program over there, now at the University of Wisconsin. What's the experience been like for him?
I think it's been eye-opening a little bit. I think he's really enjoyed the process over there, because you look at what he walked into. He walked into a group of guys that he didn't get a chance to recruit, and he gets to coach. And I think he really enjoys that part of it as being able to coach these high-end Division I NHL draft picks. I mean, you look at that roster, and they've got a lot of guys that are going to play professional hockey. And his experience at Wisconsin, his passion for Wisconsin, and having 3-4 alumni in the coaching group with Shane Conley, he does the planning side of it. So you look at him, Marco Siki, Tony Granado, a bunch of Badgers down there trying to make sure that program stays in a good direction. And I think you look at the way they opened up Big Ten I think there was some stress there, going 0-4 or 0-6, I think, in their first their Big Ten. But they were able to get a split with Michigan this past weekend. They swept Lindenwood and LIU. So you look at their record, right around 500. I think it's been fun to pick his brain. We talk, I would say, a little bit more than we have in the past. We have some windows in our schedules during the day that we can shoot a text or have a conversation about hockey, and obviously we got Brady going there. So
Right.
we're super excited and to have that local connection going down to be a Badger, and talking about Brady Cleveland, who's at the National Team Development Program, and all the fun stuff that he's been able to do in his time over at that program. To have Brady going in there, my brother being there, it's just been really, really special here to see how it plays out.
It's fun watching those guys that come through West to go to the next level, and there's so many of them. I mean, it's really interesting watching them on the ice. And even last week, you see Mark Sipple was such a great hockey player for you, and now he's like an all-conference performer on the football field at Michigan Tech. But yeah, so many hockey players going on right now. I imagine you keep a close eye on that.
Oh, it's been fun. I mean, I think we have every year we have an annual 3-on-3 tournament. We invite all those guys back. You look at Eau Claire, we've got Cade Lemmer playing there, Nick Teckel playing there at UW Eau Claire, Max Teckel's
at swept St. Norbs recently.
They did, which was surprising. I'm still a Green Knight fan. Tim Coughlin over there is
as a UW-EC grad, I am always rooting for the Blue Gold. So that
I
saw that and I thought, wow, that's big. But,
yeah, but you look at Max Teckel. He's in at UW Stout now, playing hockey there. I think Sam Teckel is going to land somewhere in the Division III world here pretty soon. Kellen Theraldson over at St. Mary's, Jacob Evans at Bethel. I mean, those guys have all played each other, which has been really fun. And then you got John Prokop out at Union, Josh Boline at Army. I mean, these guys, what's really cool is the schedule's aligned where they played each other a lot. So I text him, hey, can I get a picture? I just want a picture of you guys, in your jerseys together. And Brady and Josh were able to get a picture when Team USA played at Army. They both played against each other, and it's just so rewarding as a coach to see those guys still connect after their high school experience, and they're Warriors, and they're hopefully all going to come back for a little 3-on-3 tournament that we put on every holiday break.
Again, with BJ Brandt, the Wausau West head hockey coach here on the Big High School Sports Show. Talk about your family. You got a lot of young hockey players, don't you? How many kids do you got?
So I have 4 children. My oldest is Emma. This is the first year, Chad, we have all 4 in hockey. So Emma's an 8th grader, and she'll be within the Storm program next year. Allie's a U12 within the Storm Youth program. Kate's still a mite. She's an 8U mite. She still does the cross-ice stuff. She's red level, and then Davis is in mini mite. So we're hockey through and through. If you ask my wife, I don't know that she knew this was coming, but it's certainly become our lives, and we really love what hockey's done for our family, and certainly right now it's a lot of divide and conquer. Probably the busiest we're ever going to be in our lives, but it's been fun to watch my kids grow through the game, and more importantly, watch their passion for the game change, because certainly they go into the game because Dad likes it. Right, and then for them to find their own passion and find why they love the game, it's been really, really rewarding as a dad. And I know Kelly likes she likes being warm in the rings.
Are you prepared? Because you've been around high school hockey for such a long time, since you were a part of it, and then coaching for so many years, to be at a high school hockey game and see your daughter out there where you're not the coach, you're just dad and a fan.
It's been really interesting because I've had that opportunity over the last year with Emma's group.
Okay.
So where I've not necessarily had to be the coach, and it's been really fun to watch her grow, and even Allie. I'm not directly involved. Jacques' daughter and my Allie are on the same U12 team, and we've got a coach there that does a nice job with that group where Jacques and I can step back and just watch. I mean, Charlie DuPoint does a great job with those girls, and it's just fun to sit back and watch your kids without having that hat of coach and dad. But to answer your question, Chad, I don't know that I'm prepared for that yet, because when I go sit in a rink, I'm usually sitting by myself, and I'll probably continue that.
Stay away from me. I'm focused on the ice, right?
I want to watch.
Well, I got to ask you about the state tournament. We've talked about that for how many years every time you come in here, and finally it's out of the Coliseum, and I think there's not very many tears being drawn about that. It's going to Bob Suter's Capitol Ice Arena in Madison. I know that you, as part of the Coaches Association, working with the WIAA, had to do a lot of work. I mean, that was not a easy process to get, even when you kind of decided, I think, that we want to move out. Finding the right place and turning that page. But I imagine now that, hey, we know where it's going to be this coming spring, got to be a lot of excitement.
Well, I think so. I think the process there, looking at every rink in our state, I mean, every rink was on the table to try to be able to host it, not at the Alliant Energy Center. Mm-hmm. And the reason we wanted to get out of the Alliant is it's not a hockey facility. It's a general use facility that hockey's just a part of it. It's seen better days. I mean, back when the Badgers were there, it was one of the great facilities to watch a college hockey game in. Well, it's not that anymore. And I think the big arena aspect, I think people liked, but the reality is it's not a great fan experience. It wasn't the best ice that we play on. It wasn't the same as the sectional finals that they won to get to that spot. And I think with Cap Ice, we're going to be able to recreate that environment. And I think Chad, this process was long and a lot of data and a lot of detail and a lot of conversations, because every rink from UW, from where the Admirals play to the Resch Center, to KB Willett, to Cornerstone, to UW Superior and River Falls and Eau Claire and every WIAC school that we could find. And we were able to settle on the USHL facility of Cap Ice, which is going to be about a 2,600 cap. And you look at the environment, you put two bands in that, a high school band. That's going to be loud. It's going to be a great environment for the kids. I have no idea about the camera stuff. And those are the things that LeVar Ridgway was so nice to work with in this process, because I think he saw an opportunity there. We obviously, as a coaches association, wanted to move out of there. I really just hope that it's a great experience. We know there's going to be hiccups. We know that there's going to be problems because of their single game tickets. They're going to clean the arena or clear the arena between every game. So it's going to be a little bit different from that aspect of it, from the fan experience. But they're going to try to do some things to make that better. Because you go into it knowing there's going to be some shortfalls to the arena, but at the same time, it's about the kids, it's about the environment, it's about creating a great experience to crown our state champion for Division I and Division II, and I'm thrilled. I'm excited about it to go down there. It's still in Madison, as a coaches group.
I was going to say that's significant. I think there's something about going to the state capitol, isn't there?
Oh, there is. I mean, it's been in Madison, and as much as we wanted to push Green Bay in the Resch, there was a huge part of our association that wanted to keep it in Madison. Well, if we wanted to do that, it was LeBon or Cap Ice. And just the locker room situation at LeBon just wasn't going to work for us. So we had to find that, and maybe now with the 2 years it's going to be at Bob Suter's Cap Ice, now it gives us time to tinker a little bit and see what we want to do as a group. But I think all of us collectively are excited about it. I think we're all a little nervous for change, and I'm sure there'll be some critics out there.
Well, the best thing would be for you not to worry about all that stuff and be worried about coaching a team at the state tournament, right?
That'd be a great trip, Chad. That would be absolutely awesome to go down there and play in that environment with our group.
Well, thank you for stopping by. We'll look forward to the Marathon Cup starting tomorrow. And appreciate it. And we'll hopefully, when you're making a deep playoff run, we'll get you back in here to talk about that.
Sounds great, Chad. Thanks so much.
BJ Brandt joining us. We're going to take a break and then come back. We will be talking to our student-athlete guest, Jake Furr from the East Merrill United Blue Jacks. He'll be coming up next as we continue. And Jeff Grass will be joining us, and we'll talk some high school boys and girls basketball coming up in the next hour as well. I'm Chad Holmes, and this is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230 WXCO. And welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Again, thanks to Wausau West head hockey coach BJ Brandt for joining us for the first hour. I am Chad Holmes right now riding solo. Unfortunately, our scheduled student-athlete guest. Jake Burr is not here yet, so hopefully he'll be arriving here soon. And also hopefully arriving soon will be my co-host, Jeff Gress. Again, Jeff, part of his teaching job as student-teacher conferences, and he should be arriving soon as well. But before we continue, wanted to touch on the Central Wisconsin Storm. Did not get a chance to talk a bunch about the Storm in the past couple of segments. Storm, this past week, won 2 of their 3 games. Last Friday, they made a road trip down to the southern part of the state. On Friday, they knocked off the Icebergs Co-op by a score of 7-0. It was an incredible night in terms of shots on net advantage for the Central Wisconsin Storm. The Storm had a 79-5 edge in shots. Hannah Bauman, Ava Whitmore, 2 goals each for the Storm. Then Saturday, it was a defensive struggle, and the Madison Metro Lynx, edged the Storm 1-0, handing Central Wisconsin their first loss of the season. It was an early goal, just 3 minutes and 16 seconds into the game, that gave the Metro Lynx the 1-0 lead, and that would hold up the rest of the way. Chloe Lemke, again, was strong in net for the Storm, made 26 saves in the game, but the Storm, rare occurrence, they were outshot in that game. The Metro Lynx had 27 shots on net, and the Storm had 19. But then last night, the Storm bounced back with a 5-0 win at Greenheck Fieldhouse against Medford. Another night where the Storm were dominant in that game. Central Wisconsin had a 53-3 edge in shots. Michaela Garum and Hannah Bauman, 2 goals each for the Central Wisconsin Storm. Storm, another road trip this coming weekend. They'll be playing at a tournament at the University School of Milwaukee. On Friday, the Storm will take on Arrowhead, and then on Saturday, in the second day of the tournament, they'll meet either the host school, University School of Milwaukee, or Hayward. So that's the Storm action coming up this weekend. I see moving his way into the studio will be Jeff Gress, and we can turn our attention to basketball. Thank you for rushing out. Just relax. You can take off the coat, get ready to join us. Again, unfortunately, our student-athlete guest has not shown up here yet, so if he does come, we'll get him on the air, but hopefully that will occur. And hey, thanks for coming on over.
Yeah, I was driving over. I heard your SOS call. I'm hoping the station will cover my speeding ticket. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I was like, I got to get there. So anyway, it's good to be here.
Fortunately, we had a nice sub for you in the first hour with BJ Brandt, and great to have you on board here. And we'll start off with boys high school basketball. So I'll let you, because Jeff Gress is the most prepared guy when he comes in here. But we'll start off with some boys basketball. We'll start with the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Looking at the past week, the Valley has not started conference play yet. We had games last Thursday where Merrill fell to Mosinee 79-51. Braden Pieper had 16 points for the Blue Jays. Davin Stoffel, 26 points, 14 boards. Keegan Jersley, 22 points for Mosinee. Merrill did get back on the winning track on Saturday, beating La Crescent Hoka 42-41. Tyson Glish, 13. Croy Waller, 12. Troy Moots, 10 for the Blue Jays. So Mosinee is a tough matchup right now. They're a very good basketball team. For Coach Pieper to come back, win it on a last-second shot. I saw some social media video. The game was played at the Just a Game Fieldhouse down in the Dells. But Merrill, and they have a big game coming up on Friday against Wausau West to start the conference season. It'll be interesting because I think these are two teams within the conference that have hopes of trying to move their way into the top 3. But Merrill, tough loss against Mosinee, but a good bounce back Saturday.
Well, definitely. And I think it's a tale of two kind of schedules again, which we've talked about and alluded to on the show before. Mosinee has already played 5 games. They've been playing since Thanksgiving. I know, and sometimes it's a little tougher. I believe the Merrill Lakeland game, one of those were postponed or canceled. Yeah. I think it was that game. But, I think anytime you can find yourself, that's a playoff atmosphere for Coach Pieper and his squad. To win a tight one, to pull it out down the stretch on a neutral court in a different atmosphere, and that Just a Game field is kind of cool. If you've ever been down there, it's a college court that they're on. So
I did one of your games.
Well, I'm not. I guess I'm saying that to the listeners. I know you've been down there.
Okay.
So, but I think the words you used were Mosinee's a tough guard. Even their role players are sitting there waiting for good shots that are going to be kicked out by some of the guys that are going to be focused on because of their athleticism and their strength. And Mosinee got a good skilled squad. Jershely and Stoffel leading the way on things. And they're going to be a big foe in that Great Northern. They're going to probably, them and Pines will be a great matchup. And then I think, Merrill coming off a win going to that West game. Because, when you play West, they're going to grind it out. They're going to be stingy with you. They're going to make you earn your shot. So Merrill has, I think, a lot of firepower in the guys you listed with a couple double-digit scores.
And West only played once this past week, and it was last night. They made the trek over to Ashwaubenon, fell 57-40. Ashwaubenon actually played a couple of Valley teams. They played against DC Everest last Friday, and the Evergreens got past Ashwaubenon 58-49. Marcus Hall, 31 points. Colin Preby had 15 for DCE. But West, again, I think it shows right there with those two results. Again, you don't want to take too much out of comparisons, but at the same time, Everest to get a win over Ashwaubenon, a team that beat West by 17, it shows, again, that maybe Everest going into the start of the conference campaign has a bit of an edge.
Well, yeah, and the thing that is that comparison factor that it looks like, some of these we keep seeing in these Valley schedules similar opponents and similar opponents.
It's like everybody schedules the same thing. They all get together, right?
But I think it gives you a good read. It maybe helps some of the teams know where they stand, especially with the Valley, which, it has a different way of starting off their conference season. It takes a while to get to it. But Everest, as you said, the two names you listed with Hall and Prebe, those are the guys. Is it Prebe or Prebe?
I think it's Prebe.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember.
So I apologize.
I wanted to pull up one of my broadcasts from last year because I kind of forgot. It's been such a long time.
But those two guys are going to be the major contributors. Hall is just 30-point games are not uncommon to him, and Preby's outside shot's going to be a big deal. West, we talk about it. They've got good athleticism. They play great on the defensive end. And I think their shots come and go. When they're on, it's going to be a tough matchup. And if they're off, they're going to have to find a way for that defense to sustain that side of the court.
Good week for Wausau East. They won a pair of games. They defeated Green Bay East on Saturday, 52-39. Jesse Nepgezik, 14. Charlie Cayley, 10 in that game. And then last night, East defeated Rhinelander, 78-70. Nepgezik, 19. Cayley and Jaden Garrett had 16 each. But for Wausau East, they lost a few games pretty tight, high-scoring games, but to be able to find a way to win a couple of games, pretty significant for East.
Yeah, I think that's a good momentum builder, a good confidence builder to knock off some of these teams. Easily had the Green Bay East one in hand. Rhinelander went back and forth, and I think it was I think it was OT, right? I'm pretty sure it was OT. I was watching in and out with what my kids were doing, so I had it up. So I'm pretty sure it was OT, and to pull that out and put up significant points, that's a big deal. And every time I watch one of the East games, kids are playing hard. They're getting up and down the floor. Their guard play is a strength. They have some big guys that are bouncing around in there, and I think these couple games are building that confidence to say, hey, we could pull out games. We're going to hang with people. We're going to surprise people in the conference as it rolls around, and right out of the gates, which we'll talk about later. Got a tough task right away to see where you stand and who you play, but they're getting a variety of point production out of the guard play, and I think they have some bigs to match that can do some damage in size with their height.
Couple of Marshfield, they lost a couple of tight ones. Fell on Friday to La Crosse Central, 62-58. Marcus Neve, 21. Brooks Hinson, 17. And then last night against a very good Eau Claire Memorial team, a Memorial team that played a 1-point game against Everest earlier. It was a 2-point game. Memorial won at Marshfield, 68-66. Hinson had another big night with 25 points. 2 losses, but again, being tested, and I think Marshfield looks like they're ready for the start of the conference play.
Yeah, I mean, we were at this point one other time where we talked about the 1-3 start.
And it was overtime with the East Rhinelander.
Okay, so at least I was right.
But I want people, you were right. I want to make sure everybody knows.
No, I appreciate that. Look, I'm positive went to OT, but anyways, with Marshfield.
Have confidence in yourself once in a while.
Well, I'm flying in here trying to think my jacket's still laying on the floor.
Marshfield.
Yeah, Marshfield struggled at the start again, playing a tough non-conference season the other year when they won the conference and rallied from having a higher loss total right away to start off. And I think losing by 4, losing by 2, being battle tested right away is going to get you ready for conference play where everybody goes after each other a little bit. And Hinson and Nev, those guys are going to be some double-digit scores throughout the season. And I think they've slated it up to have a good start against Rapids next Friday this Friday.
And speaking of, they split a pair of games non-conference last Thursday. Cade Youngworth Fort scored 22 points to lead Rapids past Sparta 70-43. And then last night they ran into that tough Mosinee squad, lost to Mosinee 61-45. Keegan Jersley had 25 for Mosinee. But early this season, it feels like Rapids is going to be a team to be reckoned with. It feels like last season they got off to a much slower start. This year it feels like they're playing pretty decent basketball early, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they go outside the conference right away, and they're sitting at 2-3. Jungworth, Matthews are scoring 19 and 17 respectively. And it's not that you're not going to test yourself right away. Again, they played a good non-conference opponent in Mosinee over there, which again we've talked about some of those players that are hard to handle because of how skilled they are, and they'll really, as these early games do, kind of test your strengths and weaknesses. Playing Marshfield, who's came off some of those close, tight games, is going to be hungry for a win. And I think hosting and being at home will be a good comfort zone for Rapids in their own gym.
And finally, Stevens Point earned a 1-point win last night against Chippewa Falls, 60-59 on the road. Grant Chardonnay had 25 points. Jaron Seuss had 16 for the Panthers. Stevens Point also last Saturday faced a good Appleton East team, but fell 75-69. Ariel Council Jr. 20, and Jaron Seuss had 17 for Stevens Point. Again, they tested themselves early. They had some bruises and some bumps to prove it going into the conference play, but Stevens Point, they learned a lot in these non-conference preseason games.
Yeah, and the 1-point win at Chippewa on the road is a nice early test to pull that out. The biggest thing is you get a little momentum rolling off that 1-point win, right, and then you don't turn around and play for a little while. So some coaches love that because you got time to work on some things, refine some things, maybe get some players healthy because we never always know who's injured or who's sick, which can make a big difference early on. So I think Spash tested themselves in those two games and splitting that pair of the last two, the one versus Appleton East, and obviously the win against Chippewa is going to hold well jumping in the conference seat. The only problem is they got to wait a little while for
right.
it.
They got the conference bye this week.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the upcoming games a little bit later on in the program. Great Northern Conference. We already talked about Mosinee a little bit. It was a great week for Mosinee with the wins against Merrill and Rapids. And then also last Friday in a conference game, they rolled past Antigo 78-43. Keegan Jersley, he had quite a week. He had 22 against Merrill, 25 against Rapids. He had 23 points, 11 assists against Antigo. Landon Tomer had 17. Davin Stoffel, 15 for Mosinee. Mosinee right now, they look like a force in that league, don't they?
Right. I think they're because I've seen both them and Pines play, and I think it's going to be a matchup. And nothing's sold that the conference is done. Nothing's saying Mosinee is done because of graduation. They've got, like I said, the making Stoffel inside, Jersley running the point, and some of those good role players are on the outside. There's a tough guard. So that Pines and Mosinee game will be interesting. But they've had a good week. Their record is unblemished, and to go overtake one of the teams in the Valley, get their opening conference win, and turn around and take a bigger school in Rapids. I think that's a good week for them.
Speaking of Pines, they've been playing solid ball since losing that heartbreaker in the season opener against Newman Catholic. Pines defeated Tomahawk in their conference game on Friday, 58-30. Gabe Smith 16, Nolan Lurvey 14, and then had a non-conference win against Clintonville. And that's a good solid win for Pines, 62-52 on Monday. Smith 20, Lurvey 12. You're right. I mean, these are going to be titanic battles between Mosinee and Pines because they both have experienced talent. They got great talent, but they also have experienced talent, and that will lead to probably some really good basketball games.
Yeah, well, and you've got, if you just, usually you can find some, I don't know, high school basketball, usually there's some weakness that shows up pretty easily. But both these teams have size, they have length, they have experience, good guard play. So there's a lot to get there. Obviously, they beat Tomahawk, who they should have won against. Clintonville, a little bit of a drive to get off that bus from Eagle River. So to go down there and get a nice win against another team that I guess they could possibly see down the road size-wise is good. And they're still getting they've got three guys across the board, 14, 14, 13 with Smith, Stemke, however you say that, and Lurvey. So I think that one of those conference games is gonna do it. The person that they're not going to split. I think somebody's going to get them both, and that's going to be the end of it.
Great Northern as well. Another team that's right there is Medford. Medford is always right there, and they got some great talent as well. They knocked off Lakeland in the conference, 82-72 on Friday. Tanner Raby, 23. Logan Baumgartner, 21 for Medford. Braden Wiechek had 16 for Lakeland. Then they went on the road on Saturday, back-to-back. They fell to Onalaska, 78-69. Baumgartner, 24. Charlie Kleist, 22. And then last night, 74-73 at New Richmond. Logan Baumgartner, 35 points in that game. Tanner Raby, 22. Another thing about that game, 4 of their 5 starters played every minute. They had one starter who missed 8 minutes. They had 2 subs. One played 6, one played 2. Your thoughts on that? Number one, the talent, obviously, with Raby and Baumgartner has been outstanding. But, boy, I mean, third game in 5 days. They went 4 deep the entire game. That's interesting.
Well, and I think for their schedule, it's good that they're not coming back against a Pines or a Mosinee or formidable full right away out of the gates to keep that conference win streak alive that they have right now. I think 2 thoughts come to mind, like you said. Number one, it's great when these guys can stay out of foul trouble. They're obviously out there earning minutes because their stamina shows up. But I gotta say, you gotta wonder how deep the rotation is. You gotta wonder how battle-ridden their bodies are, because that's logging a lot of minutes when they're out there, but obviously putting up significant numbers. And in the last 3 games to go 2-1, open up the conference win, play on Alaska tough, who's never any slouch over on that side of the state. And again, I like these, when you can look at the scoreboard and you get done with the frustration as a coach and say, yeah, we really had to work for this, or it was a tight game, you're still battle-tested when you're coming out with a W on the scoreboard, and I think it just makes your team stronger going down the stretch.
Those are 3 really good teams in that GNC, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can talk all around about Mosinee and Pines. There could just as easily, those teams could stub a toe against Medford as well, because they were 1 step away from making state last season, behind Baumgartner, behind Raby. So again, it's going to be some epic battles in that conference.
And tossing Kleist in there on a given night where he can be your leading scorer, and he's averaging about 15 a game. So I think right now, just seeing that, you got a 3-headed monster there, and Lakeland could be a sleeper in there at times. Just interesting matchup to see how this plays out as the season goes on.
We got to take a break. We're going to come back with more. We're going to continue to talk high school boys basketball, the always interesting Merowith South coming up next. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. We're talking high school boys basketball. And the Merowith Conference South, always one of the most competitive leagues, not only in central Wisconsin, but throughout the state of Wisconsin. And got some outstanding teams, to say the least, in the Merowith South. The number 1 ranked team in Division 5 in the state is Newman Catholic. Had a chance to see the Cards last Thursday. They beat Athens 56-46, but a game that was nip and tuck throughout. Athens would not go away. They were good from behind the arc. Mason Prey, our guest from last week, was stellar again with 25 points. Aiden Yankee at 20 for Athens. That was the only game that the Cards played this week, but not easy. They didn't have easy games either, games last week against Edgar and then Athens. But in Athens, I thought, showed quite a bit from the Merowith North.
Well, I think that's for Newman, just being in this big physical conference as sometimes a smaller division against some of the schools that they play. I think it's going to be a good thing. They're going to be pushed around. They don't have a big rotation, which is going to help them, test their stamina and their strength and work through some of the glitches that come up, especially when you want to make a long playoff run at the end of the season. I think that this schedule is going to help them, and I think the fact that with Newman's talented senior class that they have to be tested and to be pushed is going to be a big deal. Obviously, Prey Seidel are going to put some points in, and supporting cast is going to help out. But Athens is, they come play you physical,
especially in their house.
Yeah, they're not going to give you things easy, and I think they expect to win they want to win the Merowith North.
Exactly.
So they're going to be a team that's going to give. I think it's going to give some runs to some of these teams in the South.
And looking at the competition for Newman in the Merowith South, everybody had a really good week.
Yeah,
Marathon had a really good week. Auburndale had a real good week, and Stratford had a real good week. Marathon Friday last week beat Shawamigan 73-51. You talk about somebody who had a really good week. It was Grant Warren. Warren against Shawamigan had 30 points and 10 rebounds. And then last night, Marathon went on the road for a non-conference game against Neelsville, and Marathon earned a win at an always tough place to play, 58-51, and Grant Warren 27 points, 18 rebounds in that game. Right now, it looks like the player that everybody has to keep an eye on in the Marywood in terms of the tough matchup is Grant Warren. And as a sophomore, boy, wow.
Yeah, he's a headache guard. Just his frame, and it seems like it's, as those guys build that coordination.
And he's got such a nice touch as well.
Yeah, that's a big deal because he's a headache on both ends. He's averaging a double-double. Marathon is always a team aspect and has a lot of tradition, but he's a one-man wrecking crew. You better keep an eye on him and know where he is. And I think, like you said, they had a great week. Shawamigan was picked to win that conference. They're hanging around there right now, and they go up and win significantly up there. Sometimes on those long bus rides, half the problem is just getting off the bus and having a good night of basketball. And then Neelsville, who's been a formidable foe out of the Clover Belt all those years, is it's a nice little win there. So
Auburndale bounced back from their loss last week, Tuesday, to Marathon, and I think it's the big high school sports show bounce for Coach Weinfurter after appearing on the program last Friday. They went to Abbotsford, won big, 79-28. Lucas Yeski had 17 points and 11 rebounds. 3 players had 11 points each as well for Auburndale. And then in one of the games of the week on Monday, they went to Columbus, the then number 1 ranked team in Division 5, and not only won, but won by 15 points. 58-43. Yeski led 4 Eagles in double figures with 16 points. Lucas Krecklau had 18 for the Dons. But that's a very impressive win for Auburndale.
Well, and I obviously Chad on the radio is my number 1 choice, but I did watch that Auburndale Columbus game because I wanted to see kind of what they had to show, so we could see what the Mare was going to be a little bit about. And Auburndale played really well. They came, Columbus hit some shots and never went away right away, but Auburndale kept battling. They have solid, strong guards that were making decisions to get the ball inside and finish. They shot well from the outside when they had to. They crashed the glass and controlled the rebounds and the tempo of the game and just kept every time Columbus came at a little bit when it got a little tight, they always kept them at bay and down towards it. They just wore them down. And I think Auburndale, between the guys they have between Weinfurter and Yeski and Wilfart and White Eagle, those guys are tested veterans on this team, and I think they're right now, if you look at because of their early records, they're sitting in 5th. They're not even close to that. They're going to be battling for the top, and they're deep. They went to the bench many times, and not a lot changed for Auburndale. I think that's a big deal and a significant factor when you can plug guys in off your bench and your team can keep rolling.
And then if not enough really good teams, you got Stratford. After their little mini break, after winning the state football championship, they have started off well on the hardwood. Last Friday, they went to Prentice, won 78-59. Ashton Wrench 25 for Stratford, and then on Monday they roughed up Spencer 54-32, and Wrench had 21. Just loaded this conference. And Stratford, they're going to be tough for anybody to deal with because they're always so physically impressive.
Yeah, and very disciplined. Coach Schmidt, one of the things I'm always impressed with is how he can get his guys to buy into exactly what he wants, run it to a T, wear down the team, and then you wait for the other team to make a mistake and you make your move. And they're looking like they're built, similar. They had Dahl, who was kind of their main scorer, and now Wrench is taking that role over averaging, if the stats are right, a little over 20 points a game right now, and then everybody else fills in their role, and they do it precisely to what they're coached on, what they're trained to do, and they're off to a 3-0 start and 1-0 in the conference.
The other 2 teams in the league, Assumption survived their trip to Phillips, winning 61-59. Ryan Shaw had 18 for the Royals, and Edgar, they struggled at Rib Lake, but they won 61-57. Rib Lake led by 5 at the half, and then Edgar got roughed up by Cameron. Cameron is 3-0, but still, boy, Edgar doesn't get beat like this usually. On Saturday, 69-34. That was surprising, I thought, Edgar losing by that margin to Cameron.
And I'll jump back. So starting back with Assumption,
sure.
Just from some of the scores and what you're seeing, the record is increasing a little bit. The second year in under their second-year coach, doing well. Shaw's putting up about 19 points a game. I think they're not going to be a team that you're going to mull over in this conference. They're going to come play you hard and surprise a couple W's. Edgar, like you said, Cameron's been good up in the north the last 10 years or so, but you like you said, Edgar's always competitive and they always play hard. So yeah, a tougher game in that one. They'll bounce back when they do another Merriwood North crossover and win that one. And I think that young talent that shifted from sophomores last year to their junior class this year is going to be good. They gave Newman a 6-point game. So I think, maybe a little bit out of tendency against Cameron, but I think they're going to bounce back. And again, we've just talked about all 6 teams, and nothing's easy. They just a packed conference in Central Wisconsin here. That's there's no night off.
And the Merriwood North looks a little bit stronger. It does. I was talking to Coach Jeff Schneider of Marathon on the girls' side last night, and he was over there when they played Shawamigan Friday, and he said that it really should have been a much closer game, but Marathon was outstanding from behind the 3-point arc. And that kid from Shawamigan, I forget his name off the top of my head, who is the real deal. He says that kid is fantastic. Shawamigan beat Abbotsford last Thursday 77-40 in a conference game. And then on Monday, all 4 teams from the Merriwood North won. Athens beat Colby 67-65, Connor Sheehan 31, Aiden Yankee 24. Abbotsford beat Greenwood 62-50. Phillips over Bayfield 70-52. And Rib Lake went on the road to beat Owen Withee 66-61. So Rib Lake, I mean, they battled Edgar, and then they went on the road to beat Owen Withee. It does look like maybe the Merriwood North has the potential of being a little bit more troublesome for the Merriwood South, but it's just the South is so good. But if you take them away from those crossovers, they do look like they're winning some games.
Yeah, or you get them. They have to come into your gym at nights when you amp up the energy a little bit, you play a little harder sometimes in front of your own home crowd. I think that down the stretch here, those are obviously games that we've talked about. It can't be overlooked. Athens and Shawamigan, some early favorites to finish the top of that conference, but that doesn't happen too often when you can say all those W's came in that given night. And so and that's what you want, is a little bit more competition, a little bit more competitive schedule out of each and every team you face.
And touching on Wittenberg-Burnhamwood in the CWC East last Thursday, they lost to Shawano 62-42. Oliver Frazas, 9.6 rebounds, no Chargers in double figures. And then last night in the conference, in the CWC East, they defeated Wyawega Fremont 67-58. It's hard to tell. It looks like Whitburn, I get a chance to see them next Monday. Wausau West goes over there next Monday. I'm curious to see how this Whitburn team looks, but they got the conference win.
Right.
But it does look like it's a team that's still trying to put things together.
Yeah, a little early to tell when you knock off one team. I mean, Iola's been awesome over the last couple of years. So right. I don't know what Iola skating maybe has this year, or if they've lost some stuff due to graduation.
Wyawega.
So
they beat last night.
All right.
I think it was Wyawega. Wasn't it Wyawega?
No, I thought it was all Iola Scandinavia.
I'll look back.
All right, check it out just to see who's right for the fun of it. But
I know.
That's
I'm sure you're right.
I could be off. But anyway, Wittenberg got the win. So if it's a nice start to the conference when they're probably I just knowing from I think Newman scrimmaged them and has seen them play a little bit, and the guys have talked about just a very physical team, have some athleticism.
They're always physical. Yeah.
But so a team that looking to finish in the middle pack, will they be the cream of that conference yet? Time will tell, because we're only kind of one game into the early season. But and they'll jump back against another team.
And you were right.
Was I right? Yes.
Right,
I feel good about it. I'll write about it in my diary. But they bounce back and they'll go against Bondwell on Friday.
Got to take a break. Coming up, we're going to talk about what's going on with the girls and also look ahead, both the boys and the girls, in terms of what to look forward to in the next week or so. Along with Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes. Time to start talking about the girls' side of the high school basketball scene here in central Wisconsin. And in the Wisconsin Valley Conference play got underway last night. And 3 games in the league. Wisconsin Rapids knocked off DC Everest 67-40. It was the first win for the Red Raiders overall. Everest still struggling. Braylon Byler is a good player, but not much help right now for her. She had 16 points in that game. I'm going to go through all the scores and then we'll discuss it. Stevens Point all over Wausau East 80-20. Emma Josie 23. Lauren Strassman 19 for the Panthers. Marshfield roughed up Merrill 66-35. Zyda Kolbeck and Ashley Grankrovitz had 14 points each. And Wausau West, after a bit of time off, returned to action with a non-conference win against Eau Claire North 53-38. Lexi White 20, Kenzie Deaton 14 for the Warriors. But I think right now, Spash and Wausau West looking like the strong teams. Rapids getting back on the winning track, and Marshfield, I think, is a team to keep a close eye on as well. They are playing some solid basketball.
Yeah, Marshfield had a 5-0 right now. Had a good week. Beating La Crosse Central, Sun Prairie. I always forget that when I see that Sun Prairie now has two schools, and getting the W at Merrill for their first conference win. I think that's a good start. Minsas is averaging 20 points a game, and they're going to be a formidable foe hanging around the top. For Spash, a tight game against Appleton North on Saturday. Won significantly against East, and they're another team. One of those schedules that are set up. They don't play again till Friday, December 16th, and they pop back right away against West, which is going to be a significant game in that conference. So you said it right when Marshfield, Spash, West kind of hanging themselves at the top, and West will have Merrill, the nice quality win against Eau Claire North over at their place, getting points out of White and Deaton, and Everest. I think you mentioned still trying to find a footing there. They lost to Mosinee, and Rapids got a hold of them, and they host East. So I think that maybe can get a little start there with playing that first game to get that W in the conference.
Absolutely. And why don't we talk about what's coming up here by conference here for this segment, because we're in our last segment, so we got to get through everything
whatever,
here.
Go for it.
The Valley coming up on Friday, Wausau West at Merrill, Wausau East at DC Everest, Marshfield at Rapids. I think that the Marshfield at Rapids game could be interesting. I think Rapids showed a little sign of life there. Again, it's a younger team. They lost so much to graduation. Marshfield looking solid. The East Everest game, both teams have to look at it as an opportunity. They need a win. Both these squads, East needs a win in conference. Everest needs a win generally. Wausau West at Merrill, tough matchup for Coach DeBoer, as Wausau West just has got so much size and also got some good guard play as well.
Well, yeah, I think let's just start with the East and Everest game. Those are two teams that you want to set yourself aside, and you want to get yourself moving up the ranks as fast as you can.
Build some confidence.
Yeah, and I think a W for either one of those teams will be a big deal, because it's going to get only more challenging within their conference schedules as they continue to go as the season rolls on here. For I think Marshfield just is with who they've beaten already in their games and the significance of the scores they've had within conference so far. It's going to be a tough matchup for Rapids. Like you said, replaced a lot to graduation, trying to play some younger kids to get their feet wet on what the varsity floor is like. And I think Marshfield's still going to come out with that undefeated record there. And then as far as West and Merrill, we didn't help Coach DeBoer, like you said. No. He said if he's going to go on a little bit of a streak here, it's going to be a little bit challenging that we invited him on there. But a chance again, I think, as a coach, if you're looking for that other W and your team is, you got to keep challenging yourselves. And for West, they want to hold their footings and hold their spots. And there's a lot of athleticism and a lot of size. But again, things that Merrill are building on from last season to this season that's making a difference. And they're going to continue to look to push themselves.
Great Northern Conference. Mosinee finally got on the winning track. Wins on both Thursday and Friday of last week. They knocked off Everest 62-46 on Thursday. Britt Fitzgerald 15. Taylor Jershely had 14 for the Indians. And then on Friday in the conference, they defeated Antigo 63-51. Fitzgerald and Jershely 17 points each. Mosinee needed those wins badly. They have Lakeland coming up on Thursday, which is difficult. But for Mosinee, again, it's the process. You've been there before, where you've had a senior-laden team that graduates, and then the next year you have to develop talent that have not played varsity basketball up to that point.
Yeah, and you got to – so any W's that you can get, no matter whether it's looked at as a team that's really challenging or a team that you think you should beat, I think the wins is a big deal for the players to see that their time, efforts, what they're learning, and what they're exhausting to put forth for your program is coming out on a positive end for them, something they can build off, something they can learn from, something they can just become better at. So I think W's for Mosinee is going to be a good thing with their young team. Jumping down over to and rolling in against Lakeland, it's going to be a true test.
And Lakeland,
go ahead.
They had 2 big wins before we talk about their upcoming games. They tested themselves against some pretty good competition early. Now they beat Medford Friday 78-29. They beat Ashland last night 79-34. So the talent for Lakeland is just better right now than everybody else in the GNC.
Yeah, I mean, the Wilmette sisters that almost both having 20 points a game, 6-7 assists. They're getting people the ball. It's going to be difficult for Mosinee. And Lakeland setting them aside that this is their conference and they're going to own it this year. But, looking at that next tier, Mosinee, Rhinelander having some significant scoring with Lamers at 26 a game and sitting right at 1-0 in the conference right now with a 500 record. I think there could be a fight for that next tier a little bit out of a couple, especially Mosinee and Rhinelander, a couple of teams. There might be one that surprises you. But Lakeland obviously holding their own, and I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. They're going to have some significant change in personnel to not go through an undefeated season.
And Mosinee will try to survive Lakeland on Thursday. Then they got a much more winnable game on Friday. Then they traveled to Tomahawk. Merriwood South. And last Friday there were the crossovers, and the Merriwood North won a couple of the crossovers, and the big upset, and this one just was like, wow, this really happened. Abbotsford beat Auburndale 62-52. Sydney Faltasek had 31 points, 11 boards for Abby. Gracie Krings had 16, and Anna Marie Owie held to just 6 for Auburndale. Boy, that's a massive win for Abbotsford and a really surprising loss for Auburndale.
Yeah, I had to look at that one twice because I was trying to see where Abby stood. Did they just play a good game? Did Auburndale not play that well? Because obviously Auburndale's expected to be one of the top teams in the Merriwood South. I think they still will be, but that just kind of shows you can't have that letdown. You can't have that off night if you're fighting for a conference race. It makes it sometimes difficult to play catch up. Keeping Owie at 6 points to give Abbotsford credit on the defense is a good game for them. And Auburndale on their crossover game is going to jump over and have to go, or they're going to host at least, but they're going to be playing Phillips, who isn't an easy opponent out of the Merriwood North. So I think tough loss for Auburndale. Abby kind of a surprise team that maybe we'll look into a little bit deeper as the season goes on here.
Other crossovers last Friday. Athens beat an injury-plagued Newman Catholic team 59-15. Sophia Coker had 21 points and 14 boards. Marathon topped Shawamigan 64-23. It was Stratford defeating Prentice 43-29. The most competitive matchup on paper was Assumption at Phillips. And Assumption hit the road, and they knocked off the Loggers 77-66. Kendall Duhlman had 18 points for Assumption. Casey Egebrecht 19 for Phillips. And Edgar rolled past Rib Lake 69-23. Reagan Borkhardt 17 points and 21 rebounds in that game for Edgar. But I would say the most intriguing matchup was Assumption beating Phillips, who Phillips last season beat Assumption in Rapids, and this year Assumption went on the road to beat Phillips.
Yeah, they're 6-0 overall, 3-0 in the conference, and that's a nice win to go all the way up there from Wisconsin Rapids and get that W against a team that'll probably finish first or second in the Merriwood North this year. Turn around and beat a good Edgar team too. Edgar, that's their first loss was against Assumption this year, and got a nice win against them. Borchardt for Edgar is a handful with the amount of points she can put in, and that's a lot of the coaches I've talked to have said that girl's got a lot of athleticism to her, and walking down the teams, Newman looking to still battle, but it's tough. I ran into coaches before I left school today, and fighting through injuries and people being hurt that can really change your team, and you gotta move things around and make things work and get people opportunities and maybe take people out of their comfort zone. And sometimes that little bit of shifting takes a little time to get your feet set right again. But unfortunately, as it's seen in conference schedules, there's no rest. I mean, they pop back and they're going to go over to Auburndale. Is that tomorrow or Abby tomorrow night?
Last night. Well, let's talk about last night's games.
Go for it.
Yeah, because last night there were conference games in the Merriwood South. Assumption beat Edgar. That was a battle for the top spot in the conference. 2 of the top 4 ranked teams in the state in Division 5 this week. Assumption beat Edgar 46-34. game that I had right here on Bull Falls Radio last night saw Stratford in a defensive struggle defeat Marathon 44-34, and Auburndale rolled past Newman Catholic 61-37. My thoughts on Stratford Marathon. Marathon plays really good defense, but boy, the offense right now is just a struggle. It's difficult. But the defense that Marathon played will make them a tough opponent for anybody in that conference. And if they're able to get some offense moving, they're going to win some basketball games as we continue in this conference. Assumption beating Edgar, that's a big win. I thought Edgar might be able to go into Rapids and, at the very least, give themselves a pretty good chance to win. But Assumption able to hold the home court in the first battle between those two highly ranked teams. And as you said, I think it was a tough spot for Newman, number one, because of the injuries, and number two, because Auburndale, after losing to Abbotsford, could not afford another loss.
Yeah, and in their home gym. And I think and then I getting back to that, they're going to bounce against Abbotsford, because I think they're going to bounce against Auburndale. But anyways, yeah, Newman had a tough one, a little bit of a buzzkill in playing Auburndale. They're not an easy team. They're very good, and as Newman looks to get healthy and go after things, they're going to just have to have players step up in those spots until they can get everybody back on the floor. Edgar Assumption was intriguing. They got Borchard, who's a skilled player, somebody that's really challenging out there on the floor, and Assumption kind of does what they do. They wear you down, they run their schemes, and look to continue their winning ways with Shaw at 14 and Schooley at 13. And then just listening to your broadcast against Stratford Marathon, you could definitely tell, Coach Snyder pushing those girls to be in the right spots and rely on what their strengths are. But as we've talked many times about teams, that defense is a big deal, but it's the balance, I think, between getting the ball in the hole at the right times when you have to and have your defense hold it in. And it sounds like they're just coming up a little bit on the end where they got to put the ball in the basket a little more. Stratford sounds like they have some size.
Yeah,
from what you were talking about.
They heard them on the boards.
Yeah, and that is just something that shows up. You work with, but it shows up there, and you don't always get that. So their 3-1 mark overall and 2-1. In the conference is a good thing, and we'll see as they go on if the Christofferson, Kraus, and Berg, who are averaging about 11 points, can show up and give a couple of those teams between the Assumptions and Auburndales up at the top that are figured to test it, knock one off in their loss category.
And as you said, another night of crossovers on Friday with the Marewood South hosting the Marewood North. So pretty good, I think, opportunities for the South. The games real quickly: Abbotsford at Newman, Athens at Stratford, Shawamigan at Assumption, Phillips at Auburndale, Rib Lake at Marathon. Wanted to touch quickly on the CWC East because Whitburn looking really good. They rolled past Shiocton in a game that I thought would be much closer, 62-31. And this freshman, Roy Salveson, 19 points to lead the way for the Chargers. Reese Rogowski filled up the score sheet, 16.7 rebounds, 6 assists. And then on Monday, Whitburn beat 3 Lakes 77-30. Rogowski, 26 points and 9 assists. And Salveson, again, that freshman, 21 points. Well, you got this great senior, and then you got this outstanding freshman. I would love to see Salveson play because she's been consistently excellent for a good Whitburn team so far this year.
Well, and the last week on the show, we talked about that being a good test for Wittenberg to see where are they going to own that conference, or is it going to be a little difficult? And that's a significant total, 62 points, holding Shiocton to 31. Turned around against Three Lakes, who they should beat. And is Bondwell one of the teams in that conference?
Bondwell's the preseason favorite, and then Whitburn second, and they go to Bondwell Friday night.
Great matchup. So I mean, Wittenberg 6-0, 1-0 in the conference, sitting in a great spot, getting good production. It's a great thing when the freshman deserves to play and they're up there and being a major contributor versus just a role player. And then you already have the senior that puts up the numbers in Rogowski.
And CWC North, Northern Lutheran finally got some action. They played last Thursday, defeated Nakusa 51-44. Brianna Upstutz. I know I'm hacking that name, and I feel bad about it.
That's pretty close for what I see.
23 points. Josie Russ only had 2 points, but you have to mention she had pulled down 14 rebounds in that game for Northland. Then on Friday, the favorites in the CWC North Gresham knocked off Northland 67-51. And then last night, a non-conference game, Northland fell to Rochelle 59-39. But the good thing is they finally got some action to try to get a rhythm going.
Yeah, right, and
then now I think they have another break,
and that's what my point was going to be. Now they're off till next Friday again, but again that can help or hurt teams depending on what your dynamics are and what you're looking to do within your schedule. But they're obviously, getting some point production, so that's a big deal when you can have people put the ball in the basket.
Let's talk about the boys' action coming up. And I think we're going to be able to push it a little late. I think I figured it out. So hopefully we can do that.
I just follow your lead.
I know. It's like we got a hard break, but I'm going to try to call an audible here as we're running a little behind. But got to talk about what's going to happen this coming week in boys basketball. And I think starting off, of course, it is the start of the conference season in the Wisconsin Valley. You got Marshfield at Wisconsin Rapids, Merrill at Wausau West, Wausau East at DC Everest. And, again, it's great to see the Valley go into conference play.
Right, and I read away the last game you mentioned, the East Everest game. That's a good test for East, coming off a couple W's.
Should be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, they're both putting points on the board, and you know what Marcus Hall's able to do. So I think it's going to be a good matchup, a good test for those teams to kind of see where you stand right out of the gates. Marshfield Rapids, we talked about Rapids getting a couple W's in the non-conference, playing a stronger schedule to start off, so you can see if their testing is doing well. And Marshfield's been in a lot of tight games, and I think the West Merrill a little bit to see where those two teams stand is just a good one to get the conference schedule underway and start seeing. You know, you've seen what some of these teams have done against similar non-conference foes early on, and now how will that play out as this season rolls forth?
It's interesting. Marshfield also challenges themselves Saturday. They go to Kimberly. The day after playing on the road at Rapids, they go to Kimberly on Saturday.
And those are some of the most challenging games, I think, just bouncing back. You're going to go into your conference. You're not going to want to lose this. Kids are going to hard-fought. How big a deal is the mental break and the physical break? You know, when you probably get up the next morning, have a shoot around, a little walk through so you can prep for the next team, because you can't do that before you play the other game.
And also, I think an interesting game on Monday I'll have here on Bull Falls Radio is Wausau West at Wittenberg-Burnhamwood for the Warriors. And actually, I think we could touch on that Merrill West game Friday, because I do think that's a significant game for both teams to get a win in their opener in the conference.
Well, and I think also they're standing. You know, they're both kind of picked to be in the middle of the pack of that. This will kind of hopefully get some separation. You know, a tale at two teams that have, you know, they have the scoring there. If guys are on, they have the defense that both coaches focus on, and it's interesting because they've gone. You know, West has had a couple more games. They started playing earlier. Merrill hasn't played as much. How much is that a factor? We'll see. But I think for just kind of getting your feet wet and pushing yourself up towards the head of the conference, that's a significant game to start off on the right foot.
GNC, the massive teams, I would call it, the big three, don't play each other on Friday in the conference. The games are Tomahawk at Mosinee, Rhinelander at Pines, Antigo at Medford. Probably the most difficult of those three would be for Pines playing Rhinelander, but still Pines at home would be the favorite.
And I saw Rhinelander play, and that was the one thing in the East game. East got out ahead against them, but Rhinelander kept coming, and East was able, you know, obviously they got the W, had to go to OT, but East kept them at bay. But Rhinelander was streaky, and they would shoot from a lot of different spots in the court whenever there was a little bit of room, and it didn't have to be. It could have been still contested, but they would fire those shots. So, you know, you never know. The ball starts going in more than it should. You're hitting those shots. Everybody's feeling good. That could be a difficult matchup for Pines, but everybody else looks to be able to keep it intact against the conference opponent they're going to play.
Merriwood South, interesting as always. You got the crossovers Thursday and Friday. Athens at Stratford, Abbey at Newman, Rib Lake at Marathon, Phillips at Auburndale, Shawamigan at Assumption, Prentice at Edgar, and then next Tuesday, back into the league, Assumption travels to Newman, Auburndale at Stratford. Always a battle between those two teams, and of course a huge battle, a game that will be broadcast right here on Bull Falls Radio, Edgar at Marathon. Massive games coming up in the conference.
Right. I think I'm looking forward for the crossovers first. I think Stratford Athens is going to play an interesting game to see where those two teams, as physical as they both like to play, kind of stand out tomorrow night. Everybody else, I think, should be okay. Assumption might have a little bit of a challenge with Auburndale might have a little bit of a chance, or whoever has Shawamigan. Who has Shawamigan? Assumption. That could be a little bit more challenging. There's all these A's in that conference. It's hard to find them. So, and I think as far as you said, those the Marathon Edgar, it's always they're so close on the highway to each other. It's a great game, great rivalry, a different testament, you know, to see probably a little bit of the physicality and the guard play out of Edgar versus what Grant Warren can do hanging around the middle. Do they have a matchup for him? Are they going to have to sit in his zone? What are they going to do? And the Stratford Auburndale, there's another matchup with those two coaches. They just start to know each other so well. and to see what they can do each other with Stratford's discipline style, wrench doing a good job of putting up some point production, and Auburndale being as deep as they are in their guard play. What are they going to be able to execute against Stratford?
And Stratford could actually make a big statement next week. They got Auburndale at home Tuesday, and then they have Marathon at home Friday. So that next week will be huge for Stratford to kind of break up the party where we're talking about Newman and Marathon and Auburndale. Stratford could put themselves right in there with a couple of home wins next week.
Well, I was just gonna, it's a great spot to be. I mean, there's pressure there, but yet, just to mix things up, you're always looking, I think, to get that foothold. And every time we think somebody in the Merrillwood has that foothold, it's not grasped because they're such good teams, and you can get beat on any given night.
And finally, I think we're going to find out a lot about Wittenberg. Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. Friday, they host Bondwell in a massive game in their conference. And then they face Wausau West, bigger school from the Valley, coming up on Monday.
Well, you got to love that you can try to be the spoiler. Once that person gets labeled as that conference leader, go try to be the spoiler. And I think whenever you can play divisions up, and now it's more, as like we talked about this in the rankings, or in the scheduling for playoffs, it's more about those W's. Mm-hmm. So not always playing up is the biggest deal anymore, but I think that Wittenberg will get to challenge themselves against a feisty West team that they'll see and see how much that physicality that we hear that Wittenberg has plays out in that game.
We went overtime.
We did, and we're still standing here, not cut off. It gets a little.
I figured it out. So
okay,
we have a little more wiggle room.
Gotcha.
And I guess any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I just like some of these matchups are cool. Just seeing these teams start to get into the grind of their conference. We've gotten some of the non-conference. They might pluck one here if there's a leg in their schedule on a Monday or a Thursday if they're the team that has a bye. But I think seeing the valleys open up for both boys and girls play, the Wisconsin Valley Conference is going to be good to see. Start establishing a pecking order of who, if the teams we think are going to hang at the top and who's going to hang in the middle and who's going to fight to get out of the cellar. And then I think the conferences that are strong, both the Merrillwood conferences on the boys and girls side, seeing these teams battle each other and get after each other. And then also you got the stories of teams that have to bounce back after a loss, or they took one they shouldn't have, or they're battling through something. I think that's the story of high school sports, and I think it's neat to see that as that plays out. So I'm always looking for the next night of scores to see, even just tomorrow. It's only Thursday. What happens? Then we get to the weekend. What happens?
Well, that's going to wrap it up. Make sure you're on time next week. Okay?
I will do my best. Numerous responsibilities. I appreciate Chad let me fly in.
No, it's all
and
good.
my school let me fly in.
And thanks to BJ Brandt for being with me for the first hour, so I didn't have to talk to myself for the first 60 minutes. So, again, that's Jeff Grass. I'm Chad Holmes. We'll be back next week, again, from 6 till 8 p.m. for the Big High School Sports Show right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.